Hi. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. If we can quieten down. Thank you. Welcome to track 4. It's of the Social Mission Conference. Our track is entitled Care for Creation. And if you just came in from outside, you will see that God has started to care for his creation by bringing down some showers of blessing onto our very dry grass outside. So, all good, but we were safely ensconced in here. Thank you for joining this session. Basically, we will focus on the overall topic of care for creation, which will be really focused on how can the church take a more active role in caring for our environment in Singapore specifically, and in the midst of the challenging environmental issues that we are facing, how can we be part of the movement to be a force for good and stop indifference in our homes, workplaces, parishes, communities, and society? So that's just an overall, right, sense of what we'll be talking about, in this next period of time. I want to welcome, our esteemed panelists who very kindly, given their time to us. We have firstly Hon Fai here, Maxine, Caroline, Michael, and Christiana. I'm gonna get them to introduce themselves briefly, vis-a-vis more specifically, their interests on, what their involvement in this space is, and I guess that's kind of explanation of why they're here today, sharing their thoughts with us. Hon Fai first, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hon Fai. I've been with the Caritas board for a few years. And early last year, I was appointed to chair the Care for Creation Committee for Caritas. So it's my pleasure to be here. And I'll take a few minutes later on to share a little bit about what we do.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Maxine. So I'm part of the Care for Creation Committee. And we've been working on a few initiatives for the last year or so. And I've also been involved at the parish level to do some outreach. So if y'all are interested later, you want to ask a bit about outreach, what your parishes can do, please feel free to ask me for help. I'll come and I'll do nature walk, I'll do beach cleanup, whatever you want me to do, I will do. And I think another aspect of what we are trying to do here is we're trying to get more people to get involved. So even in many small ways is good, getting people more aware. So I think that's what our aim is. But of course, you want to do something bigger and you need support, please ask. I'll be very happy to give support. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Caroline. I am the chair of Jesuit Refugee Service in Singapore, and I'm a member of the St. Ignatius Green Movement Ministry. And in both of those capacities, we try very hard to raise awareness of the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Two examples would be during COVID, we organized the Climate Action Conference, where we had representatives from all parishioners come to St. Ignatius for a 2-day event. And another example was just 2 days ago, where we organized Voices of Creation on Laudato Deum. And we had a youth speaking, Voice of Youth, Voice of the Church, Father Glenn, and Voice of Nature. And just want to introduce James Koo over there, who was one of our panelists on Thursday. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michael, and my day job is being an architect. But there are a couple of other hats that I'm wearing. The first one is being a director of the CAG, or the Catholic Architectural Guild, which is a guild that has come together since 2019, trying to see the overlap between developmental work and church teachings. The other one that I'm wearing is actually being the vice chair of ALPS. ALPS stands for Archdiocese Lands and Properties of Singapore. So we advise His Eminence on all matters regarding land and property matters under the Archdiocese. And also a member of C4C, Care for Creation. So maybe just a bit of an interest is a project that we're working on, which is called the Laudato Si Design Guide. That's what CAG is working on, trying to find a link and a bridge between the teachings in Laudato Si and how developers in the industry can begin to look at the work that they are doing in the industry. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christiana Zenner. I'm a professor, and you've heard from me already. I'm here to learn.
Thank you, everyone. And I didn't introduce myself. I'm Alvin. I'm on the board of Caritas, so I just do random stuff. So this is one of the things that I got asked to do. I'm just half joking. All right, so let's get going. As Hon Fai mentioned earlier, I thought it'd be very good if he could maybe spend a few minutes sharing the C4C framework that has been developed as sort of a backdrop for our conversation. Yeah, Hon Fai.
Thank you, Alvin. Before I share the framework, let me tell you a little bit of history. Actually, the Caritas, as many of you know, has actually been working on the cry of the poor for many years. Together with our members organizations, we work with in the social sector in Singapore, dealing with the poor, the disadvantaged, people with disabilities, and basically Caritas work with 20 over Catholic charities. It was sometime in the year before, so 2022, we had a board retreat and we asked ourselves, is there anything else we need to do? And at that time, I raised the topic that maybe perhaps somebody in the church should be championing Laudato Si. Maybe you will recall that at that time, although Laudato Si has been promulgated many years ago in 2015, and many parts of the church actually are actively working on green projects and basically trying to do their best as far as Laudato Si is concerned. But it wasn't coordinated on a church basis. It was basically done by different parishes, maybe by the schools and so on. So Caritas thought that perhaps we could volunteer to champion it on behalf of the church. So the board agreed, and last year I went to see the cardinal, brief him of our plans. Cardinal, of course, was very supportive. That was June last year, and that's why this year he agreed to do the Laudato Si Mass yesterday, and this is the first Laudato Si Mass for Singapore, which of course we hope that this could be an annual event. The Mass yesterday was very significant in the sense that it's the first time that the whole Church of Singapore gathered together to celebrate Laudato Si. I mean, we have all talked about Laudato Si for many years since 2015, but it's the first time that the church got together. And of course, Cardinal took the opportunity to empower Caritas to champion Laudato Si to the entire church. But I must say that we recognize that this responsibility cannot be carried out unless it is with the full support of the church. So it is our endeavor to work very closely with many Catholic organizations in Singapore, especially the parishes, the schools, and other Catholic organizations. Because only then can we truly try to reach out to every Catholic in Singapore and share with them the meanings and the teachings of Laudato Si. So to guide us in our activities, Caritas came up with a framework. It's a simple framework. It talks about the mind, body, and heart. As far as mind is concerned, activities that we carried out basically is to raise awareness of Laudato Si. So we do talks to schools, parishes. We do activities like beach cleanup, eco walks, and so on. This is basically to raise the awareness of Laudato Si. Then, in the area of body, we are talking about more concrete stuff like waste management, water management, cutting back on energy use, more use of solar power, and so on. Of course, within Caritas, we don't really have the expertise in this area. So we are collaborating with organizations such as ALPS, which Michael talked about, and I'm sure he will later on share with you some of the projects like solar panel projects that they are already working on with some of the Catholic institutions. Then in the area of heart, because ultimately we are Catholics, we are Christians, we don't talk about we are not talking about the environment for environment's sake. It's because we are stewards of the earth, because we are empowered by God to do so. So basically, we want to link our involvement in this green movement back to the church. So we are going to do this through formation sessions, spiritual retreats, and so on. So this is just a simple framework to guide the efforts of Caritas going forward. And of course, I take this opportunity to invite those of you here, in whatever capacity you are, to have a conversation with us and to share with us your ideas, and also, if possible, to collaborate on how we can bring the message to the people out, to more Catholics outside of this room. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Hon Fai. Thank you. And just keep this up there. Yeah. So this forms the framework of a lot of our sort of sharing and discussion this afternoon. And please feel free to ask questions or give inputs, opinions, because we're kind of all in this together and figuring it out together. I don't think there's anyone who's really in this room who's like a super expert in this. We all have good intentions, but I think we want to translate that into real impact. So let's get going with the first portion, which is maybe we talk about the body part of it first. And I want to sort of maybe invite Michael to take the lead on this, but any of the panelists, please just jump in. We have sufficient time to have a very robust discussion on each of the questions. So the first one is really about sort of the body in terms of the green building, sustainable initiatives, and it's about stewardship and responsibility. So what practical steps can parishes and Catholic organizations take to reduce their ecological footprint? And maybe Michael, you want to kick us off to talk a bit about that?
Sure. Okay. So I think when it comes to any measures that can help us to address sustainability issues, right? Nobody should reinvent the wheel, because there are already so many ideas out there that we can learn from and we can adapt to what we are trying to do here. One of the very useful, I would say a low-hanging fruit, is the Laudato Si action platform. Yep. So it is, Laudato Si is not just an encyclical, which is, too abstract for everybody to understand. It has also been translated into various platforms. And one of it that is very useful is called the action platform. In fact, if you go to the action platform's website, you key in the requirements of your organization. How long have you been? What are you trying to achieve? It is actually smart enough to generate a set of guidelines. And the guidelines are basically broken down into various categories. First one, it starts with lifestyle, and then it goes into how do we empower groups, what kind of economic consideration we should have, how do we educate people, how do we respond to the cry of the earth and cry of the poor, and then the last one, actually even on spirituality. So these 7 categories in the action platform are actually very useful, and it can be bespoke and tailored to the needs of the individual community and in different neighborhoods. So we did a test of the Singapore Archdiocese situation, and it really generated a platform that allowed us to have a very rich resource of ideas that in the C4C, we started to actually break it down into 3 different tiers: basic, intermediate, and advanced. Because if you just take a cross-section across the Archdiocese, there are parishes that are a lot more advanced than others. St. Ignatius is one example. They are like university level, but some of us are in kindergarten level, what's a solar panel? And so we have to go to the level of every parish, because every little step counts. It doesn't mean that just because you're in kindergarten level, then, you can't do anything. you can do a baby step that is still counting a lot. So we want to have a platform and a framework that will be able to make sense out of what individuals' constraints are, and to allow them to do that. So if you're going to eventually, perhaps the basic under, let's say, cry of the earth, right? Those 7 categories, across. So you can look at it as the verticals and the horizontals. So you've got 7 verticals and then 3 horizontals. You can actually locate where you are in terms of your level and in terms of that category that you're looking at. Let's say, cry of the earth. Are you just at the level of trying to get people to wash their plates, after church fellowship? Or are you at the level of, let's say, even evaluating the vendor who is actually selling you, the water cooler refill, and things like that. So these are all at different levels of complexity and sophistication. And what we are trying to do in C4C is to set up a framework that everybody can benefit from. And I think that's something that is a pretty concrete action that we can start with.
So I think when we talk about some parishes being at really infant level, it's that just trying to convince your parish not to use disposables sometimes is you are already kind of fighting a bit of an uphill battle. But I just want to encourage you to continue to fight, because that's what I do all the time. I just can't keep quiet about it. So I think just like every little bit and touching on what Christiana said in the morning, actually, about integral ecology, about how being sustainable and being aware of all of these things has to start from within parish activities. That means every time there's a parish event, there has to be some thought behind, like what you said, Michael. So like the vendor, the using of reusable containers, like all of these things has to come into play. So for the C4C, we're hoping that there's green committees in each parish. But if that's not possible, just even having an advocate just in one of the ministries is actually good. Because just you need someone just to say like, hey, I think we won't get single-use plastics this time. We're going to get the parents to come and wash the plates, for example. I'll just give you an example of a retreat that was just going on in my parish in SFX. So we don't have a green ministry, and we are quite slow in this respect. But one of the catechists actually asked me, like, what can we do? I don't want to have single-use plastic. And I just told her, like, I'm so happy you asked me this. Caritas has a washing ministry. You can get plates from them. They will support you. And you don't need to have single-use plastics. But all I needed was for someone to come to and ask about it, right? So I think that's what we are trying to get at. And even for the buildings, like for the solar paneling, for setting our thermometers or our aircons don't need to be so cold. Like setting them at 25 is like enough, actually. So I think these are just small baby steps that we can take. Yeah.
Before I return back to Michael, you may have some things to add to that, but I also had a question, because you mentioned about different parishes or different church organizations, even not within the parish, etc., even within Caritas, the member organizations, etc., are at different stages. Some are quite basic, intermediate, and advanced. Is there an overview and oversight of where everybody is, sort of, I don't want to use the word audit, but an assessment or an understanding at least, and so as to have that overview, and then encouragement and support for those at the various stages. Because whether you're at basic, intermediate, advanced, you may need help to get to the next stage or further along in the journey, because it's a never-ending journey, obviously, sort of thing. So are those kinds of things in place or starting to be in place, or is it really more still of encouragement and say, okay, do your best, but see you next year kind of thing, and let's see where we are kind of thing?
So thanks for asking that. We don't have an audit or something similar to an audit right now, but we are hoping to set up a journal-like format where each of the parish comes on board and actually start to build a journal of their sustainability maybe journey, right? And this is actually going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint. So which means that whatever experience, success or failure, right, we would like them to be able to document that, and then in our network come together and to share, to say that, hey, look, we tried to do this thing and it failed terribly because nobody is interested. We just couldn't get the funding. Or, we had a bit of success in trying to get people because it kind of worked, it's actually easy. And so that was a good, successful experience that we had. And if you could actually get everybody to come together, right? And then keep a regular meetup with all the different parishes, that might be the beginning of understanding where our own positions are. And then I think we can be a bit more tailored to what each of them need once we get into that rhythm of reporting and coming together. Yeah, so this document that we are trying to put together has to be a live document. Yeah, it is never conceived as something that is prescriptive, where, it's actually one size fits all. So being a live document, we allow every parish to actually tailor to their needs. And then very importantly is to keep up that communication. Yeah, and to be able to share notes. And every time we come together, we want to be able to bring everybody up. So because I had failure in certain things, maybe I can share why we failed. And then maybe if you had actually done something correctly, you could share back with me. And that is also another way to build relationships as a whole archdiocese, because there's no way that we can go at it alone. And it has to be a community effort. And hopefully this platform becomes another vehicle for everybody to come together and move forward together.
I just want to confirm that from the C4C perspective, we did not do an audit of the parishes. What we do know, since we were set up about 18 months ago, we have been working with some of the parishes, the more active parishes, such as St. Ignatius. And in a way, we wanted to find out what they have done for the last few years, and also what kind of programs we can roll out that would benefit them. Definitely, as far as the Singapore Church is concerned, we consider this year as the launch year, because this is the until recently, actually, even the role of Caritas is quite ambiguous. And only at the last conference, the Presbyterian with the Cardinal and all the parish priests involved, is confirmed to everybody that Caritas has this role to champion Laudato Si across the entire church. Until then, it wasn't clear to some of the parishes that this is what Caritas should be doing, because Caritas hasn't been doing this for so many years, right? So, and yesterday, Laudato Si Mass celebrated by the Cardinal with many parish priests involved and a lot of parish management also involved, in a way represents, I guess, a launch, of Laudato Si into the Singapore Church. A bit late, but we should start. I mean, if we don't start now, it'll be worse, right? So, so after this, what C4C committee will be doing is we'll be actively engaging as many parishes as we can, and working out programs that hopefully we can collaborate on to bring the message closer to the Catholics. Of course, one of the things we have done recently is the video, which you saw earlier. So we are hoping that this video will be shown to all the parishioners during the masses and all that. And that represents the start. I mean, it is a signal that we can start the conversation. Also, the other thing is that as far as we know right now, there are only about 25% of parishes with an active Laudato Si ministry. Okay. Maybe we did not do a good job in checking with some of the parishes, but just based on what we know right now, only 25%. So in a way, of course, we will continue to work closely with the 25%, but it is our hope to reach out to the other 75%, and hopefully more will come on board. And if you happen to be in those parishes where you don't think there is an active Laudato Si ministry, then perhaps I will encourage you maybe to talk to your parish priest. Perhaps it is time to start one, so that we can engage with you and start any collaboration.
Something. Is it entirely optional when it comes to the individual parishes and parish priests to decide how much or how little they want to be involved in understanding and implementing what the encyclical is formulating? Or, is their duty, as part of the Catholic Church in Singapore to come to grips with it, but at their own pace? Because I just am not sure what's the official position.
In my conversation with, in my discussion with the Cardinal, he advised me that the way Caritas should be doing is to actively engage with all the parishes. He said that, running a parish is not easy. Parish priests do have a lot of responsibilities, and some of them may not be ready for this movement. But he said we should have our plates full. We should work with those that are more enthusiastic, and slowly more and more of them will come on board. So this is a message given to me. I guess the short answer to your question is that there's no he doesn't intend to make it mandatory, but the mere fact that he is actively involved, and if you were there yesterday, he gave a very impactful speech, very impactful sermon about how important it is for Catholics to adopt Laudato Si principles. I think slowly this will permeate. And of course, the Singapore Catholic Church is not like the armed forces, the general say this and everything goes down. So, if you, as a parishioner, when you talk to your parish priest about something that is important to you, these are things that will be good feedback to the parish priest, and I'm sure more and more of them will come on board. Personally, if you think of it this way, the Singapore government is already very active in this area, right? We all know about the Singapore Green Plan. And in the last 18 months, because I got involved, I also know that actually the Buddhists, the Muslims are also very actively involved. If the Singapore Catholic Church don't step up, we will be lagging behind. The other civil groups will be lagging. It's not just we are leading, we are lagging behind. And I think this is such an important issue for us, for our world, for our children. If the Singapore Catholic Church is lagging behind, I think in a way it will be difficult. It will be difficult to tell the young people that we are Christians, we are Catholics, we so love the world, but we don't care. We don't do anything about it. So at the end, I think this is an issue that the church needs to step up on, and hopefully all of us can help in that aspect.
The issue is communication. I myself, the first time I heard this, I go to church, go to 2 churches every week. Of course, I was away for 20 days. But it's the first time I heard about it. So imagine a person who goes to church regularly. It's the first time I heard of the Laudato Mass. So imagine those who are not regular. I think what you see is correct. It is really a democratic process. Every church, every parish must take the initiative. But I think the communication is very critical. And today, mass communication, IG, TikTok, I was searching through IG and TikTok, I couldn't find anything on it. So I think that is something we have to look at.
Is this mandatory? And and I just want to share something that happened at this climate action conference that we organized together with Caritas 2 years ago. On the second day, where we asked representatives from each parish to share, people got very emotional, and some people started to cry even, because they said, we feel so passionately for nature, for creation, for the insects, for the birds, for the everything, but our priests don't have any time for it. And they were very emotional, and they were saying like, please, how can we come together and convince our priests to do something? Good thing Father Vel was there, and he is in charge of the seminary, and I had asked him to please give closing reflections. He said that he was so touched by all this sharing, but he said the priests want to do something, but they really need your help. They have so many things to do. So he sort of encouraged activism among all the people who were there, because the representatives were people who were very passionate about this place. So just one more point. But the question just now Hon Fai talked about was that how can you actually relate to people and get people to feel about this? And, like this, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? There's this behavioral change theory, which is similar to, which talks about like, why do people do the things they do? It could be one, because they just feel it's the right thing to do, and they want to be game changers, and they want to lead the way. And this could be like Professor Mowe, she just wants to do it. She's the right thing to do it. The Alvin, the Hong Fais, the Michaels. And then there are other people who do it because it's a very cool thing to do, right? Oh, this parish is recycling, I want to do it too. And there's a third group that could be, oh, if I don't do it, as Hong Fai said, I'll be left behind. So when we communicate to people as to why Laudato Si is important to us, how can we be, advocates of God's creation, try to understand where they're coming from. Do they want to be the game changers? Do they want to do it because it's the cool thing to do? Or they just want to mitigate risk and this is the safe thing to do? Thank you.
Sorry, can I say one thing? Okay. I think I belong to one of these parishes that has a hard time talking about this or advocating this at all. But that's why I strongly encourage, like, if you are within parishes and you all want to start like a green group or a Laudato Si ministry group, I highly encourage you to do so. And even within my parish in SFX, like, there are small groups and pockets of people who do care very deeply. And so we do try our best to do whatever we can. We don't want you to lose hope. We want you to definitely just keep trying to do small things in your little ways. For example, for your own retreats, for your own events and so on. But I hear what you're saying about communication. So we are working on that as well. We have a C4C network actually that we email out regularly. So if you are interested to join that network, you can talk to Lina later, give your email to her. She will give you a lot of updates. Like the sad part about the lack of communication is that last year we had a tree planting event for the whole archdiocese, and not all the parishes turned up because maybe not all the parishes knew about it. So we organized a tree planting event. Even that just ended, we had a gardening competition that started at the beginning of this year. And if you entered, you actually got money from Caritas and you had to plant your garden. And I was one of the judges for that. And it was really heartening, like, to go to the parishes, to go to the kindergartens and to see the work that the kindergarten teachers are doing to teach the young ones how to grow their garden, how to care for nature, how to care for creation, and incorporating that into their education and their curriculum. To me, that is really, really heartening because it shows that these teachers really care about what they're teaching. And then some of them even brought in the Laudato Si, some of the aspects, like they were teaching the children about how to care for creation, teaching the children that God created us and created all of this for us. And so we were supposed to take care of it. So to me, like, just having the kindergartens already start there, like in the parishes, we can definitely do it. I think there's no need to feel hopeless. If you feel hopeless, means you're not doing enough. I promise you that. I will tell you. Because I'll tell you, I don't feel hopeless because, like, we do quite a lot in the C4C network. We try our best, basically. But even in my professional capacity, I'm a lecturer, I'm a biologist in the university here. One of my students is up there behind you. So I feel that, like, we can do a lot. And I don't feel disheartened. Yeah, sorry. Yes, yes.
You were saying that you organized something and
Yeah.
not all the parishes showed up.
Yeah.
So, which platform did you use to announce this event? Did you use the Catholic News, the Archdiocese website, or what was your
We mainly use the C4C network, the email, but we also advertised it. I advertised it on Catholic radio. I went on Catholic radio to advertise it. We did many, many things. So sometimes it's like, yeah.
One way to promote this awareness, like the international market, they are promoting the ESG lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of people are following that. I try to do that. You don't drive, you take bus, you eat vegetarian. So I think you can start doing the C4C lifestyle. So you do it from the bottom up, and people want to do that lifestyle. Then you go to church and say, hey, can we participate? Can we have a movement? I think the network is great, but you should actually encourage people to convert it into their lifestyle. And I think that is the start. And the best place to start is kindergarten, the primary school, the secondary school, all the Catholic school. Okay, good example. One of the drive for me is my daughter. She's 100% sustainable. She only wears cotton. And she always criticizes you and do something that is not to his liking. So I think that's very important. Is if the children or the young people adapt the lifestyle, the ESG or C4C lifestyle, it will make a great change.
I fully agree with you. And let's say that from the C4C committee perspective, we will use all the media available to us to promulgate the message. I think you are familiar with Catholic News, all the radio, the social media, Instagram, Telegram, whatever. Whatever we can do to promote, we'll promote. But ultimately, it's not just a question of blasting all this thing out. You know, for instance, we hold this conference. We are able to engage you face to face. It's much better than if I blast something out in your Facebook and then you see it. So ultimately, my sense is that, for example, the video that we created, we intend to share this with all the parishes and have it shown. Right? But if you imagine you're a parishioner, you see that 3-minute video. After that, if nothing happens, you would have forgotten about it. But if suppose that create a platform to start a conversation and then you move on from there, then things will happen. So at the end, yes, we definitely need to communicate better, but ultimately to move people, a lot more needs to be done. And I'm counting on all of us here. I presume you are all advocates of Laudato Si. That's why you are here. That we really need, in whatever help we will do. The other comment I want to make is that when we talk about hope, is that we have to recognize that we are not here to save the world. Okay. I think Pope Francis made it very clear in his second encyclical, right? The world is deteriorating at a very fast pace. If anybody can save the world, it's all the governments in the world coming together, every single person living a very simple lifestyle. But there's an impossibility as of now. So, frankly, the US government cannot save the world, the Chinese government cannot save the world, Singapore government cannot save the world, you and I cannot save the world. But we must hope that with our prayers, we can still, we do not need to continue to allow the world to degenerate at this pace. In our own lives, in the organizations that we are involved in, the little things that we do, it matters. It matters. The world may come to an end, but it's not for you and I to decide, right? God will decide when it comes to an end, if it comes to an end. So, all we can do is to do our little part. So all I can say is that we are not here to save the world, so no need to get, when you see the world screaming and screaming, getting louder and louder, the temperatures getting higher and higher, don't be disheartened. We just have to do the little that we can, right? And I think the more we do, the more people who believe, the more prayers, perhaps God will find a way to save the world.
I think there is a lot that we can do based on what our individual lifestyles can be changed. I think there's also a lot that we can do based on what your vocation is. If I may share how the CAG came to existence, I attended the CER. I think some of you might have attended the Conversion Experience Retreat, right? And it was during the CER that Bishop at that time said that we all need to look at our job not as a job but as a vocation. And I see people nodding your heads there, so I think some of you might have resonated with that. It was really very striking for me because I've practiced for more than 20 years in my day job as an architect, and a lot of times I'm struggling to find the purpose behind the work that I do. I think most of us experienced that kind of thing before, and I think when I went for CR. And when Bishop actually he has many sermons, right? So one of it was actually about turning a job into a vocation. And of course, those of you who want to know more about that, attend the CR. I can't divulge. Okay, and right away at the end of the retreat, I wrote him an email. I don't know, what prompted me, but I just wrote him an email and asked him, Father William, there is a guild for the doctors, there's a guild for the lawyers. Why is it that there's no guild for the architects, right? And expecting him to come back maybe in a few weeks' time because he's a busy man, right? He wrote back to me in a couple of hours and said that, Michael, that's exactly what you should go and set up. So be careful what you ask, okay? No, but that really, was what struck me as something that I could do with my day job and turn it into a vocation. And I believe every one of us in this room, right, are not just an advocate, but you are also an expert in your own field, all right? Be it domestic, outside domestic, in the industry, as a professional, non-professional, all the kind of works that you're doing, right? You are a professional, you're an expert in your own field. And that field will be able to find its relevance in the whole sustainability equation in Dato C. So I think while we can say that we, go out there and buy responsibly, we be a better consumer, there's also a lot that we can do in our own field that, you can take that very brave leap of faith to say that I want to advocate that in my field. Is it an educational field? Is it a marketing field? And whatever it is, set up a guild if you want to. I believe there should be a lot more guilds in the church. We should all come together as professionals, put our technical knowledge together, and that will really move mountains. And that's the encouragement and the hope that I would give everyone to.
I'd like to share something. Has Caritas approached schools to encourage, or at least not on religious grounds, because government schools, they're not permitted, but just give them the idea about environmental care and things like that, so that the principals can make use of these topics. They work on it, and then every Monday or whatever day, when the teachers give assembly talk, then they can disseminate this idea to the children, especially in the primary school, because they start from young, Then in that way, they're aware. Because I noticed that children nowadays, they're not really worried about the environment. I've seen them throwing rubbish all over the place, So I think from there we can perhaps start with the primary schools. You can liaise with the principal.
Maybe I can try to answer that. So actually within the schools itself, they already have a lot of framework to do with ESG and sustainability. So I think that one on the MOE side, they're already doing a lot actually. And like coming from my professional perspective, like as a lecturer in a biological science department, I'm asked to give a lot of talks in many secondary schools, primary schools. So I have given a lot of talks in these general areas, but of course I talk about my specific subject, which is what I work on, which is freshwater biology. But the thing is that what I think we are hoping for within the church community is that further emphasis of Laudato Si versus just sustainability. Because being environmentally conscious as a non-practicing Christian will look slightly different than how we view it. So I think that aspect of that care for creation and that prayer aspect, that faith aspect has to come out and has to make us different and make it different in our parishes as well. Why do we care for creation? Is because God created all of us and created creation and for us to be stewards to creation. You know, we don't do it because we want to care for conservation. Of course we care about conservation, but we do it because ultimately we love the creator. That's why we do it. So I think like that aspect and coming through the schools might be a bit more challenging to bring about. Like, so that's why they go from the more secular perspective, which is the sustainability perspective. Yeah. Sure.
No, I just also wanted to pivot a little because we talked about environment quite a bit, but Laudato Si is more than an environmental cyclical, right? Because a true ecological approach is always intertwined with a social approach. And the climate crisis does not happen in a vacuum. It is overlapping. It intensifies poverty. It accelerates hunger. It incites conflict. And that is why Pope Francis is asking all of us to get educated. He made a speech once. He said, please get educated, move from blindness to awareness and take action. And climate change is actually accelerating one of the greatest crimes against humanity, which is the forced displacement and uprooting of millions of innocent men, women, and children. And that's why he's saying that, you know, you talked about indifference just now. This globalization of indifference, and Pope Francis just talked about that last week again, is so ugly. We really need to open our hearts and try and understand what happens to the very marginalized and very vulnerable people in society when all these climate disasters are happening. Yeah.
Okay, so I come from two Catholic schools, so I thought I'll share the perspective from a primarily Catholic school. I think where we are very privileged is to be able to not only do sustainability education in line with the nation's zero waste movement, but also bring in the aspect of Laudato Si. So for example, in IJOLN, we have this educating the girls on Laudato Si and two specific areas of biodiversity and waste management. So currently I'm in Mowe Junior, and we are starting our eco-stewardship program for the primary 3 students and sharing how the Catholic social teaching goes really nicely hand in hand with caring for our environment. So I thought the question that I would like to ask is what are some opportunities that we can look forward to work together and collaborate to enrich the program even further for students.
I think there are many opportunities. So certainly I will encourage a conversation between us. Maybe just as an example, recently we organized a gardening competition, and we opened this competition to far and wide. 7 schools participated and 2 parishes. So I guess from the parish perspective, maybe some did not participate because they don't have a garden. But I feel that maybe many of them perhaps don't look upon this as a key priority right now. But from the school's perspective, many of them are very enthusiastic. So actually, there are certainly Caritas will want to partner with the schools to roll out programs to the children. Within the Caritas family, out of the 20-odd Catholic social service agencies. We also have a few of them that are dealing with children. Okay, so again, we will work closely with them to reach out to the children. And definitely, education, if we start young, is always much more beneficial. So we certainly want to discuss with you further. Yeah, Maxine.
So just a small thing. I can organize. So I've done a few beach cleanups, and then I do also intertidal walk. So we can do intertidal walk together with beach cleanup, and then I link that back to Laudato Si. So if you can link up with me and link up with us, and then we'll find a time to do that. Yeah.
Sorry. If I may expand the conversation about children and education a little bit more, I wonder how many are catechists here. Are there any who are catechists? Yeah, I think there are a few. Yes, Auntie, lifelong catechists. But I think there is a lot that can be done also in the space of catechism. Our kids, I don't know, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's hearing from my own kids and also their friends that, catechism is like another session of school, Yeah, after 5 days in school, Saturday, Sunday, they go to school again and they are in the classroom for an hour and a half. They have enough of that. Can the catechism session be done in the park? Can it be done at the beach? Can we bring children out to Fort Canning, wherever is near our parishes, have a walk in the nature, and let them just, listen to the songs of the birds and all that, and just let them experience what Laudato Si is through the senses, not through even more, head knowledge. Yeah, because there's so much that they have to squeeze into their little heads, and yet Sunday, Saturday session plans sometimes can get a little bit repetitive, right? And if we think that we are running out of ideas, I was a catechist once too, that's why I'm speaking from experience. Can we bring them out to, have some fun, with nature? And I think this can get into their system without having to squeeze into their brain. And I think these are really things that can really plant a lot of seeds in these little children that we have. And as they grow up, it might not be something that we have to squeeze into them. I think these are just all nudgings that we can do here and there. And after a while, it becomes part of their second nature to be sensitive to these things more naturally. Yeah.
Sorry.
Where like we can ask for the parish to guide for them to follow. Just my daughter, she actually suffered as a catechist. She prepared all this. Just like the mom would say, and then she was like, the parish said, no, you have to follow the structure. And then all the old school lessons, like, just follow. And not evaluate. And so when she do like, special online games or like a quiz, because she prepared a lesson, so she will always get a saying or the same task for the people, and how you should follow and all this, right? And I'm just like, no, don't make your catechism like that. That's why you market. So now she's out of catechism. So she's not really. So I personally felt very like actually she can contribute. She wants to sacrifice her time. But now, because of all this, she's like...
Yeah, I also think the directive can come from the arts because we are stopped a lot with territory. So, I used to do that a lot with my kids in the house, religion, have a little game, very interested in nature. But then, as time went on, they just taught us at that level, we can't take them out of the family because it's like the parents don't like it. And I'm responsible for their safety. It's like, I can't do anything with them. So you just go follow. But you know what? I can't do it my way in the system. So once I get this, and bring another thing to do. But within the classroom, unfortunately.
So just to share, someone mentioned that St. Ignatius is very advanced. she was the lady was saying that it's actually quite difficult to do it because there are authorities in the parish that say you cannot take the kids out. There are authorities in the parish that say you have to keep to this lesson plan. Don't try and do things too different. Don't spoil the market. This is it. Just execute. Right. So I'm just sharing what we did at St. Ignatius. So we are also just learning. We are also in kindergarten in so many ways. And there are things that we've tried to do and we do get opposition. Yes, we have a parish priest, Father Colin, who is big champion, but he also will say you have to go to the PPC and try and convince them or it won't happen. So what we have done, we are very fortunate that we have a couple of people. One of them is Corina here, who's a very active gardener. So we have a gardening group, and what they do is that they grow lovely fruits and vegetables. And so we have a little bit of a garden in St. Ignatius. So what we've tried to do is to get the catechists to like bringing the kids out to the garden. So you don't have to bring them out of the church, but we bring them to the garden. They've done like nature sketching there. And then like during season of creation, if there's a certain theme, like I think last year was Let Peace and Justice Flow. The year before was the burning bush. You know, we will organize activities for the kids. And like you did a bit of origami or something, you hang up on a tree, you know, and then sometimes we'll bring the pots to the place of gathering. You know, so it's, in a way, we try to bring the Laudato Si to the classroom, you know, and one thing that I thought worked well was, you know, during Lent, where we, you know, like some of us will go to St. Joseph's with this beautiful stations. We introduced eco stations within St. Ignatius. So we have 5 and we took verses from Laudato Si, some reflections about nature and all that. And so we encourage the kids to just go from one eco station to the other. And like, again, you know, like during catechism time, so we don't bring them out of the church. So these are just some little practical things we tried to do. Yeah.
Thank you. This is so lively. I'll just add in that one thing some of my friends in the US have been talking about, because in the US and perhaps in Singapore too, we have very, very high rates of meat consumption. And so meat, like beef. Yeah, chicken, pork, beef. Beef being the most water intensive generally of the meats. And so one of the things that is not addressed very much in Laudato Si, but that is very real, is the question of food waste, but also diet. And already into Catholic practice, there is built in a mechanism for Lent and, you know, meat-free Fridays. Why not think about Lent as an opportunity to eat mindfully, however that looks, you know, meatless Lent or different weeks that have different ideas. And those are things that kids could really think about as well in neat ways with their families.
Sorry. I'll just hop now. We have a question for Professor Christiana actually. How is the Laudato Si adoption in the US coming along? Which institutions, you know, be it at the parish level or is it not institutions, do you see more successes? Do you have kind of similar challenges as what you've heard today, and you know, if there's any like successful strategies that you've seen work that in Singapore we can implement?
Well, that's a very tough question because I'm very inspired by the energy and the efficacy that already I'm seeing among the groups in Singapore. So, you know, 18 months ago, right, C4C was developed. In US world, that's super fast for a video to get launched and all these things. And I would say to the first part of your question about what's it looking like in the US, I would say not great. Initially in 2015, there were many other things overshadowing, and the way that the US Conference of Bishops has worked is to prioritize beginning of life issues above all else, whether that's through reproduction or pro-life activities and so forth, and that has been seen as totally its own thing. And there are lots of political, historical reasons for that. It has been harder to get priests and bishops to understand a continuity of ethics of life and an integral ecology. I think that is beginning to change. I think that's beginning to change a little bit, in part for a number of reasons, but some of it is the leadership. But it is really, I have heard nothing in the United States at all like I heard yesterday from the Cardinal. I mean, I think the word is gobsmacked. It was amazing. It was really amazing. And so I texted a couple of friends about it and said, "You're not going to believe this. This is incredible." And if I had told them in person, I think they would have fainted in a good way. So I envisioned them doing that. And then one friend wrote me back, 10 text messages immediately. A lot of energy is coming from universities in the United States, and Jesuit universities in particular, but Catholic ones more generally. And this, of course, tracks with people, either professors or students, being really interested in this and thinking, yes, this is evident. These things need to be addressed together. One of the things that I'm hopeful about is that Jesuit universities in particular, or any Catholic institution, whether a parish or an educational arm, could serve as proofs of concept, not only about environmental and social justice issues, not only about food waste, but about physical plant design, architecture kinds of realities. So anytime a new building needs to be built, could we do closed loop water recycling? Now, I know that's easy for you all in Singapore to think about because you have one water. But for us in the United States, that is still a very strange idea. But my hope is that whether Catholic churches through land use and through buildings, or Catholic universities, could be kind of pilot projects that show broader society, including parishes sometimes, how this might work. That's my hope. I think the place that I think is doing it best in the United States is Loyola University Chicago. They've established a school, I believe it's called the School of Environmental Sustainability, and they do really, really good work on these topics. So that might be one model. The other thing that I've been interested in following, and C4C people, maybe we can talk about this later when we have more conversations, is the Laudato Si movement. Have you all heard of this? Yeah, so the Laudato Si animators, and they help to connect folks who are, working on any number of levels, but also with international teams. And that sense of being able, as you are asking in the question, that sense of just being able to connect and say what's going on in your context, what's working, what's not working, and why. I mean, it's like, this is a microcosm of that, what's amazingly happening in this conversation. But I'm excited to learn from you all because the United States, we are mired in complications right now, unfortunately.
Need a mic or not? I think wait. We go and give the mic.
Hi. Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Joshua from Catholic News Artificial Communication Office. My questions are not officially asked on disclaimer. I'm not asking questions for the mission. But okay, so thanks for presenting the C4C framework. Are there plans for the framework to go beyond parishes and individual actions in parishes? Or is it for the short term, is it more targeted at parishes and archdiocese, and how we can do better in our small ways? Second question, I think you mentioned that there are about 25% of parishes that are active they have an active adolescent ministry. What are some examples of these other Ignatius? And I ask because people maybe from different parishes here, so that they could get in touch with these parishes and learn from them how to set up ministry. Because I think many of us have no idea how to set up a LC ministry, what we do, what the frameworks. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think the first question is that actually Caritas' mission is to try to promote Laudato Si to all Catholics in Singapore. Then we see the parishes, the schools as our partners. We are not developing programs for the parishes. We are trying to see how we can actually send promote the Laudato Si message to the Catholics in Singapore. But of course, Caritas being an archdiocesan organization, it's very difficult for us to do so, even if we just blast out through all the various communication channels. Ultimately, we need to develop programs and work closely with the parishes, with the schools, and then those programs hopefully can touch more people. Okay, that's the first question. The second question relates to the no, yeah, oh, it's okay. Well, actually, it's a very informal list, and I don't think, as I said, I personally don't think that it is comprehensive because we really, but all we know is that ever since we were set up, we try to engage the parishes, and so far we have been able to engage 25% of them. Not that the other 75% are not doing anything. In fact, I think all of them are doing some things. It's just that they are not actively, we haven't been able to engage them, and hopefully we can engage them and perhaps roll out programs that it is my hope that one day, because if you look across even the 25% that we have engaged, many of the programs, some of them are quite similar. So we are hoping that if we can develop a program that is relevant to most of the parishes, then we can actually, it will be a much more efficient, effective program if it can be rolled out across more.
So before that, I guess Joshua's question is also Joshua, right? Would there be a central place where the other parishes who, the other 75% who of people within those parishes who are interested to come for, to reach out to learn or to just ask questions and find out more, sort of thing, like as a resource?
Definitely, for those parishes that want to reach out to us, you can contact myself, any of our committee members, Lena, where you are up there. We definitely will want to engage with you. It is ultimately, I hope that once we have active Laudato Si ministries in many of the parishes, I think there are many things we can do together, many best practices we can share. So maybe even Caritas can organize forums for the ministries, representative from the various parishes to come together. And I think jointly we can do a lot more. But as of now, we are at the beginning stage of the process.
Sorry, I'll just add, so Church of Divine Mercy, I just want to list some parishes just in case you want to contact them. Church of Divine Mercy did a season of creation last year, which was amazing. They had a different activity for every day. They did handmade bags from curtains. They did a lot of different works. SVDP was also doing the same thing last year. St. Ignatius is another one. Nativity also is another one. So a lot of these parishes are doing small little projects. If you contact us, we can get you in touch with these other parishes. Because I think that's what the C4C network is also, is to get you in touch with each other so that y'all can help each other as well. And then we can provide some guidance in particular activities that you would like to run. Okay.
Thanks, Joshua, for the question. I think it's a very Singaporean question because, as a Singaporean, we always ask, is the government doing something about this? Can it be legislated? Because we are so used to that, right? Being, so efficient as a government. But I think when it comes to Laudato Si and sustainability, right? I subscribe to the principle of subsidiarity. I think this is the only way that it can work. Because, Laudato Si is not something that can be top-down driven. Because when it's top-down driven, it will not be sustainable. After a while, when the pressure is not there anymore, the whole thing can just stop suddenly. So what really needs to happen is that people like you, right, who are actually the advocates on the ground, to create a ground-up, a grassroots activism. And I think that's the only way that it can sustain because, it's really coming from people who are passionate and who has ownership of these activities that will be able to, create its own way of working it out. Because if it's top down, then whoever is giving this top down instruction, right, will not be able to know what is needed on the ground. Yeah, what is needed on the ground is really known by people who are in the grassroots. Yeah, so it really requires that kind of a ground up initiative for each of you to find a space for that to sprout. and coming to us to get maybe guidance, framework, support. But I think the action has to be driven by your side. Yeah.
Can I just add to the education and about just a minute? Because we Christina and Michael talked about, autism is a journey and it starts from us, right? At one hand, you have these climate deniers, and we can talk about them later if there's time. But on the other hand, are people like you all that really want to do something but don't know how. And that's why I want to echo the Pope's message that we need to get educated. And we can't just wait for Caritas or the powers that be even in Singapore to pass on. There's so much material out there. We should just go and learn. And I'll give you one document, for example. The Holy See just collaborated with the Stockholm Environmental Institute. This is one of the brightest brains in the scientific world on environmental sustainability and on ecology. And they talk about, the different areas, biodiversity, climate, air, water. And a powerful premise of that document is that, yes, we are facing many challenges in the climate crisis space, but a lot of the solutions are out there. It's just that we are not implementing them. So I think it's really up to us to really try and understand what are the issues and what are the personal steps that each of us can take to make a difference. When Pope launched Laudato Si Action Platform, he said, God has given us a garden. We cannot pass a desert to our children.
Can I just say, my name is Melissa. I'm from the parish of Citizen Hall. So we're one of those that she mentioned. But I just want to say that last year we had a session in Ignatius Church where we brought together different parishes, and then after that meeting, I actually wrote to ask whether we could set up a Google Drive where we could put all our different resources together, or maybe we could set up a WhatsApp chat group for the different parishes so that we can share resources with one another and also share our challenges and then maybe get ideas about one another. So I was hoping that would be set up so that we could do this sharing that's ground up rather than wait for Caritas. But I got not much of a reply, and I think maybe it's PDPA issues or something. So I was told that we're not ready to set up this Google Drive yet. So it's a bit difficult because I think that each parish doing it on your own is very tiring. It's actually better if we can collaborate. And so I'm very glad that I met Rita today. She's from Church of Transfiguration, and she's also leading the care congregation team there. And then recently we had a tie-up with the Trinity Church. And so we're kind of like trying to find each other and trying to group together. So if we could do that here, I'm willing to set up a WhatsApp chat group with anyone.
Actually, what I would like the C4C network, and we discussed this in our meetings, but we're still like in the midst of trying to roll it out, is to do a Telegram channel so that we can churn out information quickly. The WhatsApp group. Yeah, but I can. It's just that we need to get permission to add people to a WhatsApp chat.
I think Melissa, I don't think you are just talking about a WhatsApp group, right? You want a closer, a group of people from the various parishes to come together so that.
In fact, the simplest one I was thinking of last year was just a Google Drive where, let's say, we were preparing materials for season of creation to share with our parish, slides and things like that. Then we can just share it, and then you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like someone else from another parish can use the same slide.
Okay. Understand.
So granted, I don't live in Singapore, and so we don't have the same kinds of security and internet rules and so forth. But I will say two platforms that have been very useful in organizing and connecting on a voluntary basis that is decentralized, but obviously could be linked to Caritas and whatnot. Pumble is one. I don't know if you're familiar with that platform or if it works here. Pumble, Pumble. Slack is another one. Obviously, I'm sure folks use that in other contexts. And one of the merits of this is that you can set up lots of different channels. So, if there's a Lent channel or a slides channel or a random thoughts channel or a key quotes channel, and that can sort of be a very vibrant, decentralized space where people can connect and share information. Is that more along the lines of what you're talking about? Okay, the Americans have something to offer. Hurrah!
Although my own sense is that we need to build that community first. Because if you want to share, usually you will share with people you know. So you can't be sharing, you cannot be putting out your data out there with people you are not quite familiar with. So ultimately, I assure you that from Caritas' perspective, because we really want to work closely with all the parishes, and it's our objective to try to bring as many parishes on board as possible. One of the things that we will be doing going forward is to try to bring together a more closely knit community of people in the various parishes interested in Laudato Si. So exactly what we will do, what form it will take, we will discuss within our committee. But certainly what you mentioned about having a Google Drive and all that will be under consideration. But essentially, I understand what you're talking about, and we will try to bring it about.
Sorry. Christiana just wants to.
So Hanfei, I hear what you're saying entirely, that this is built on relationships and collaborations and trust. I would simply add that sometimes in these endeavors, and especially for younger generations, the relationships are also built online, and that is experienced as a very valid form that totally coexists and has to be complemented by the in-person, but that sometimes the one can lead to the other in surprising ways. And that's a little bit of what I'm at least hearing and intuiting here.
So one question I ask is that is C4C, I think belongs to Caritas. I'm interested to start a C4C lifestyle. Is that possible? To bring together people who is interested in this activism and sharing the experience.
I don't think we have any any IP here. Our job, as I said, our mission is very clear. We really want to promote Laudato Si to all the Catholics in Singapore. And if whatever you do helps in that, we consider you a valuable partner.
Because I believe you should start the bottom up. Because I see there's a lot of a lot of barriers. Parents are not too busy to do it. The best is actually the movement is always the bottom up. Yeah. To get the people who has a passion, research to share the experience. And that's the power of the social media. Yeah. I mean, you can share the experience. You're not pushing it down to them that you're interested. If my friend is interested to do it, I want to follow. If she is an influencer, we can do so.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, time check. You have 7 minutes left. I was going to add 3:30, but please go ahead.
Okay, very fast question maybe for Professor. So my question is for the environment, and then we change our lifestyle for the environment. But most what we can do more is how to change for ourselves, what we can do for ourselves. So what kind of the consume is considered reasonable and suitable at the aspect of the environment and economy aspect of it for Professor? So if we buy a new clothes, buy a new bag, whether it's suitable or not, and then how to measure it is suitable and then for the lifestyle. Yeah.
Well, we will. This is a key question, and I'm so glad you brought it up. But we can be here for 4 years trying to figure out the answer, right? Anyone who gets at, you're absolutely right. And there is so much information. It is so intense, all of the decisions. And when the responsibility is always placed on the consumer, it's important because sometimes we do overconsume. Too much plastic, use less plastic, basic rules. buy electric instead of gas. These are all American sorts of problems, but then you have downstream problems like with mining and lithium batteries. So they are wicked problems in the sociological sense, as we were speaking about yesterday. I would say that being attuned to the better choice is that, as opposed to the worst choice, what is the better choice given the available options, and just keep trying to go with that. And then there will always be new information, so you'll probably always be revising it. But I also want to make sure that when we talk about individual actions and individual consumption, we also remember that individuals are only part of the situation. We also have nation states. We also have corporations. And so thinking about ways that our individual mindfulness can begin to inform our interventions into structural and systemic levels, into corporate practices, into law, into, in my case, participation of the United States and their willingness to sign on to COP and so forth. Because we can't let the individual eclipse the reality that this is also a structural problem. And that, I think, is the constant dynamic to be aware of. So yes, make good individual choices to the best of your ability. Give yourself forgiveness for when, you can't and the data is just too much, but also keep your eye on the big structural realities as well. Thank you for asking that. It's really important.
I actually had a question which directly follows up from what you're saying. And I think the Catholic framework is really exciting. But I was wondering, because it's an archdiocese-wide movement, other than individual and parish level movements, whether we'll be seeing or hearing more about what the church is doing. So in the universities, a lot of calls are for divestment, right? Or for a certain kind of action of other than physical infrastructure that will address perhaps. Okay, in my mind, I'm thinking about households are only responsible for 20% of the emissions, the other 80% is industry. Or what can we as cafes, or what can we as a cafe church responsible, or is there something that we're doing? Because I feel like this enables me as a climate advocate to be more confident that I know my community is doing our part, and I can do more work with them. Thank you.
I think so. What's important is to know that exactly what you said is very important, to know what the church is doing and who we are kind of getting services from, who are the vendors that we are hiring and all of this. So that is actually at the individual parish level. Because for Caritas and for C4C, we're making recommendations of who you should be calling for, let's say for any of the buffet, any of the events and so on. But that individual decision of whether to choose one vendor over another, whether to choose people who are more, vendors who are more sustainable versus others, would come to the individual parish decision. Because it's as we said, and what Honfai said earlier, we are not going to dictate what is going to happen from the archdiocese level, from Caritas level.
Just want to wear a Jesuit refugee service hat now. And even at JRS, we passionately advocate for Laudato Si and Laudato Deum. And people, even the JRS volunteers, used to challenge us and say, what has climate change got to do with refugees? And then again, you have to have that whole education, right? Because if we allow this climate crisis to, just go on and do nothing, the science tells us that there'll be 1.2 billion climate refugees by the year 2030. So that is why at GRS, we have also taken on this challenge, because that's something that we want to take action on. Now, GRS is not a parish. It's an organization. We are a charity. We are part of Caritas, but we are also happy to collaborate with any of you. So, for example, it was GRS that initiated the filming of the letter. Any of you seen the letter? 2 years ago, Pope Francis, it was this beautiful movie about 4 protagonists. One was the voice of the poor, a refugee from Senegal. One was the voice of nature, was a bioscientist. One was a child from India. The fourth was a chief, indigenous chief from Brazil. And they journeyed together. They told their story, and they all met up at the Vatican with Rome. So we did a screening at St. Ignatius, but we're happy to do a screening in any parish that's interested, And then after that, we just had a dialogue with those who came, and we had a dialogue with the priests. So very happy if any of you feel that you want to do something. At GRS, we're also very happy to collaborate and talk about the cry of the poor and the cry of the earth.
Last one, okay.
Hi, I'm Priscilla. I'm an ESG consultant in one of the big four accounting firms. This is a question but also a suggestion for consideration. I know that a lot of the senior management and boards of directors in Singapore, I think a lot of them are Catholics, and I'm wondering if there's a way to reach out to them because they form the strategy that this is a very capitalistic society. So we actually have quite a lot of clout to influence that. So both a question and a suggestion for your consideration, perhaps.
Thanks for that. Indeed, it's very true. I mean, having been in the CAG and ALPS, I've come to realize that how much of our economy is controlled by Catholics. Actually, is quite surprising, actually. But none of them are doing as much as can be done within the church circle. So we are actually starting to reach out. ALPS has a council, of course, and we have people who are developers, who are owner of developer companies. We have technical advisory that are people who also are very senior in their organizations, and they all bring in their capability to move things within the organization. Because what we are saying here is that we are not just doing things within the church. We are also trying to evangelize. Laudato Si itself can be an evangelistic tool. You know, what is the church saying about the situation of the world? You know, what are we doing as Catholics, as evangelizers out there, and getting people involved in the work they're doing? In fact, it has actually come to a stage where even non-Catholic leaders in the industries are joining us in the church organization. So we have, as technical advisors, people who are Buddhists, people who are Protestant Christians, who actually have the same kind of calling. So it's starting to be not just ecumenical, but even interreligious. And they're actually coming together and say that, hey, actually, look, you guys have a very good framework. You know, your church leader is coming out with this document, which some of them wish that they have. You know, and there's a lot that can be done together. So I think certainly in our own field, if you find that there are industry people, leaders who are also very much into what Laudato Si is trying to promote, we should get them on board. I think there's really, you know, no exclusivity in this thing. Laudato Si is something that shouldn't be kept within the church, and it should really go out there to whoever is, you know, interested in this, passionate.
Another opportunity or passageway for this would be CBN, the Catholic Business Network. So CBN is organizing, I think, a series of talks from the next half of the year. So one of the people from CBN has been in contact with me. So I'll be going to give a talk in the CBD district just about Laudato Si, about care for creation. So I'll let you know how that goes. You can also come for it. Are you part of CBN? Yeah, so I think you should definitely join the CBN and be part of that network. If you are a young professional working within the CBD or even in a business professional, you should be part of CBN or CAG, ALPS, any of these organizations, because this is what is going to connect you to the church in Singapore. And so if when I come and give a talk, then you can support me lah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks. Super lively.
Hi, I'm an insect guy, and I have to share this. So I'm sweet netting, which is like sampling for insects. 5 minutes, a small patch in CJC, right? And there are about 30 insects here. I'm just going to share this so you know that even in the smallest patches in your churches, where it's just a small patch, there could be insects there. And that's an opportunity to build a relationship with what's there. You don't need something that's big. You don't need to go to a park. You just need to be aware, right? Be open, be educated. So I'm just going to share this with you. You can just take a look and see the insects that are around us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It's really very lively and interesting and mind-opening session. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for your questions, suggestions, thoughts, and of course all our panelists today. I think it was really I didn't stick to the script very much. Actually, we had a whole list of questions, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. But I think certainly there were a few themes about sustainability, ESG is like a big thing in the world. Even in corporates, like every balance scorecard has an ESG element and so on, and a lot of greenwashing going on. However, I think what we discussed was it's important for us as Catholics to bring the faith lens into it, and what the Bible and what us being Christians and Catholics have an even stronger impetus not to fall behind, not even just to keep up, but ideally to lead the way, because God gave us the creation that we have, and which is fast going to pot in many ways. And the flip side of that was, even in our religious education, how to infuse and embed Laudato Si more deeply, even simply, but within it, from catechism all the way through, right, to our schools and wherever we have. So both ways, right? And I think there's so much hunger and interest to connect, to learn, and to share, and also to seek support to start things. And I think that's also very, very promising, I think. We just need to, I would say, communicate maybe a bit better, and we'll continue to organize better. We thank you for all your inputs, because I think it's really helpful. There's a lot of unfinished business, obviously, but that's the best business. We've got to get after it. Thank you.